Hey everybody, and welcome to another How to Play series. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Battle for Osgiliath, the new Middle-earth strategy battle game, two-player starter set coming from Games Workshop in the next few weeks. That is entirely like new terrain, a couple new hero models, and of course a core rulebook for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. Now, I've been playing this game for almost 20 years. I was actually around back in 2001 when the Fellowship of the Ring box was first launched, and actually that was one of my first times ever working in this industry. I was working as a part-time sales staff member for Games Workshop at the time. And this game has a really near and dear place in my heart. I love the films. I love all of what Peter Jackson's done. I read all of the books as a child. In fact, one of my first sort of like obsessions was with the graphic novel version of The Hobbit. And of course, when those movies came out too, it was really cool to see it all come to life. So what I'm going to do this following sort of 4 Saturdays is go through the How to Play scenario set that comes in the new Battle of Osgiliath box set. Games Workshop was kind enough to send along a copy of all the models from the box. And I'm going to bring you guys along with me as I build and paint this box set, and for the first time in a long time, dive back into Middle-earth and play some games and teach you guys how to play as we go. So the first mission today focuses on 2 frames of the models that come in the box, the Warriors of Gondor and the Morin and Orcs. And we're going to be throwing down a game against them that focuses on the core mechanics of the stat lines for the models and the turn structure for the game and how to engage in combat. So this is sort of like an exploration of the core mechanics of the game. And as we go forward the next 4 Saturdays, I'm going to also show you the heroic stat line, how to build a warband, some army construction stuff, and it's all going to culminate back with like the full sort of like Battle for Osgiliath using all the models in the box. I also want to do some painting videos and show off the new terrain. You'll see some painted here, but I have a bunch more. So I can actually show you how I painted it. It was super easy, and I think it looks fantastic on the table. And basically, I want to take you guys on kind of like a tale of one gamer getting back into Middle-earth strategy battle game. And as I build, paint, and play the box set. So I specifically kept some stuff aside so you can watch the journey. And we'll kick it off today with the first mission from the new box set. So here it is, the models from the new Battle of Osgiliath starter set. We have 2 sides already painted up, as well as all the terrain that comes in the single box. Although I do have more to show you guys how I did it later on. I wanted to give you a sneak peek into what it looks like when I paint it this way. So for this mission, the first mission in the box, you are asked to prepare 2 forces. The first frame is the Warriors of Gondor frame, which provides you with 4 bowmen, 4 spearmen, and 4 warriors with swords and shields. And then 1 frame of Morin and Orcs, which gives you roughly the same thing, except no bows. So the Morin and Orcs come instead with 3 warriors with just hand weapons, 3 with hand weapon and shield, 3 with spear, and 3 with spear and shield, and those 12 will be assaulting. They're sneaking back in the dead of night using boats to attack the retaken city of Osgiliath. Other models that come in the box that we're going to show you today are the, you can see I've got them prepared. I wanted to prove I was doing this in real time, so I want to actually show this stuff off. So I made sure it was all assembled and primed. I have 12 more Morin and Orcs, it's the other frame. We have Gothmog, both mounted and on foot, who is the general of Mordor's armies during the Siege of Gondor. And we have a Mordor troll with a big hammer. I love this miniature, and it can be built also as an Isengard troll or a troll dumber, but a bunch of different ways. But I built it as the original sort of OG door-knocking, breaking into Gondor troll. To oppose this mighty horde of orcs, you also have some human heroes. We have the Rangers of Ithilien backing up the Warriors of Gondor, led by Boromir's brother Faramir. Now we also on the right there have Damrod, and on the left have Madril, both captains of the Rangers of Ithilien, and it's backed up by 12 Rangers, a complete frame of the Rangers models, 4 with spear, 4 with bow and hand weapon. Sorry, 8 with bow and hand weapon. Some have their bows out, some have them on their backs. But basically, these are the elite special forces who have defended Ithilien from people that would want to get into Gondor. And that's the complete contents of the box model-wise. You're also going to have your rules manual, some tokens, some dice to play the game itself. And that's what you need to lay out. So grab your tokens, grab your dice, and lay out your models. Now, the first mission that we're going to play through is called the Orcs Across the Anduin. And this scenario is designed to teach us, like I said, the sort of like core sort of mechanics of the game. Not worrying about heroes just yet, but just the stat lines of the models themselves. So Gothmog has cunningly, you'll get there, Ash, used the darkness to allow his forces to cross the River Anduin all but unseen. As they close in on the western bank, the defenders are alerted to the attack just in time to prepare a hasty defense. All across the western bank, men of Gondor ready their weapons and take a deep breath as they prepare to clash with the orcs that have just disembarked from their ramshackle boats. Notes-wise, there is a large garrison defending the western bank of Osgiliath and an even larger force of orcs preparing to cross the river. As it's our first game, the scenario represents just a snippet of the massive assault that's taking place across the city. As it's our first game, I've put down a gaming mat and a little bit of terrain from my collection, but for the most part, this is just, you could play this on your kitchen table. It doesn't require a huge amount of space, as long as the models start far enough apart from each other. You could play on a flat carpet or wherever it's easy and convenient for you. The city of Osgiliath has been reduced to rubble and ruin, and the board should contain the 4 ruined buildings, including the blocks. If you wish, you can also include any minis or scattered debris from your own terrain collection. So I put down some dead trees that are in planters here, and I used a gaming mat. Once we're all laid out, the setup's pretty simple. All of the Morin orcs are placed within 12 inches of the eastern edge of the board, and the remaining Gondorian soldiers have to be at least 24 inches away on the opposite edge. The objectives for this game is that the soldiers of Gondor must eradicate the threat of the orcs present to keep their vulnerable supply lines and their wounded from getting taken out. Objectives for this mission are that the soldiers of Gondor must eradicate the threat the orcs present to their vulnerable supply lines and wounded allies, while the orcs must make sure that their presence on this side of the river goes unnoticed by their enemies. So they're trying to take out these sentries and continue sneaking in. The player will win if there are no evil models left on the board, and the evil player wins if there are no good models on the board. Special rules for this scenario. This is just the core sort of like setup and learn to play. Laid out, let's start looking at the rules. Basic principles. Good versus evil. Obviously, that's the dynamic in Lord of the Rings. Evil forces represent the forces of Sauron. Good represent the forces of Mordor, such as elves, dwarves, and men. The game is played in turns. Like many other games, you'll be divided into a series of turns where both players will move their models, take actions, and fight each other. Let's talk about dice. There are d6s. This is represented by single dice. If there's a higher numerical value, like 2d6, that's how many d6s you're going to roll, d standing for die. d3 is when you roll a die and have it, rounding up. So that would be a 3, that would be a 1, that would be a 1 rounded up. Characteristics. During the game, you'll be able to see the characteristics of your models. Now, characteristics are the things that they sort of like can do and how they are represented on the battlefield. A Warrior of Minas Tirith, for example, has a move, abbreviated there for MV, of 6 inches per turn. He has a fight value of 3 and a shoot value of 4+. That's how good he's at shooting his bow. He's strength 3, he has a defense of 5, he rolls 1 attack die, that's what the A is, has 1 wound, which is how much damage he can take before he dies, and has a courage of 3. Now on top of that, there's also a bunch of keywords: man, Gondor, infantry, warrior. Typically these are used to trigger special rules like shield wall. He's equipped with heavy armor and a sword, and his options when spending more points are to take a warhorn, a banner, a bow, a shield, or a spear. And he costs 7 points to include in your army. Now we'll get to points later when we talk about building warbands, because for this mission we don't have to worry about it. But basically it's the numerical value that you add up to play a balanced game. So if you're going to play a 100-point game, you could have 100 points worth of Warriors of Minas Tirith, Warriors of Gondor, with additional equipment. By contrast, the Morin orcs have a different stat line. They're also 7 points. They have the keywords orc, mortar, infantry, and warrior. And they also move 6 inches per turn. Their fight's also 3, but you can see their shooting is worse at a 5+. Their strength is 4, so they're actually stronger than a man, and they have the same defense of 5. They have 1 attack, 1 wound, but they're not quite as brave. They only have a courage of 2. Their options are to take a banner, shield, or spear, and they come with heavy armor and a sword, mace, or axe, depending on what the model has. Compare the stat lines, you can see that men are pretty versatile. They can have bows, spears, and different types of hand weapons, whereas the orcs are kind of brute strength, relying on their numbers and melee to crush their opponents up close. Some other important concepts for this game would be line of sight. That's going to come up with the bowman. You get down and you can see if your model can draw a line of sight to some part of the other model. Measuring, you measure from the closest point of a model's base or stand to the closest point of another model. So for instance, these 2 models from closest point would be just over an inch apart. 2 models over here from closest point to closest point would be roughly 6 inches apart. You have a measuring device, like a little measuring gauge like this for when you get up close, but you can also use a tape measure for measuring things like bow shots from further away. Or in the actual turn sequence of the game, we've got the sort of basic understanding of what things do, and we're going to get into how they do it. So there's 5 stages in a turn, starting with priority. Ready face is when you decide who goes first. If you're playing a narrative play game, typically good players will always go first because story-wise they have the initiative. But in a match play game and a game like this where we're learning, we're going to roll for priority. Now, for this mission, all of the good dice will be blue, all of the evil player dice will be red, and we roll off on two sides of the bin here. Now, a roll off means rolling the dice until someone rolls higher, re-rolling ties. So for the good player, we get a 4, the evil player gets a 1, and that means the good player has the priority for the first turn of the game. It's easy to mark by putting like a dice to one side, maybe the turn marker dice that you're using, or you could just use any kind of counter that you like. It is important for the rest of the turn though, so it's important to keep track of who has it. In the move phase, both players move their models. First, the player with priority moves any of their models they wish. When they are finished, the other player moves their models. So movement has a bunch of restrictions, but for the point of this game, we're going to go with whoever has priority and show how to move. It's real simple. You measure model by model the distance you want them to go from the closest point to the closest point. So from the front edge, not to the back. Now, this would be wrong if you went 6 inches to the back. Whoops, he carried his friend. If you go to, it's from the same edge. So if you measure from the front, you move to the front. If you measure from the back, you move to the back. It doesn't matter as long as you're measuring from the same part of the base. It would be the exact same to measure from the back of this guy's base to the back of his base going like that. You'd still move 6 inches. As long as you're measuring from the same point, it's usually easiest just to go front to front. Now, the guys with spears actually will benefit from being in contact with their friends. There's some rules for weapons we'll get to in the fight phase. So I'm gonna move these guys up, each of them going 6 inches, maintaining their sort of little formation here, where each of the spearmen has a friend with a sword and shield in front to sort of defend them. The last ones are gonna move up to here. My archers are pretty happy where they are, standing up in the buildings there, kind of ready to rain down shots on the orcs. Now there are some penalties to moving and firing, and because we don't want to take any sort of like penalties to our shots, we're going to stand still up there. Where orcs get to go, and much like the humans, they want to make sure that they measure from the same point of the base, same point of the base. These guys are going to go on a little flanking mission, going over here. You did start in base to base when I put you down earlier. And these guys are going to sort of form a line, I think, in the middle, squaring up. Now the orcs don't have any shooters, so it's going to benefit them mostly to just run as fast as they can to get into combat. Right, both sides have advanced, so we're into the next step, which is the shoot phase. Players make shooting attacks with any of their models that are equipped with missile weapons, starting with the player with priority. Once they've finished with all of their models, the other player makes their shooting attacks with their models. So having one priority with the good player, they'll shoot first. Of course, the Moran orcs don't have any guns, so it's kind of irrelevant. They'll always be shooting first here with 4 shots. So the shoot phase is pretty simple. Pick a model they can see, and take a shot. 1 6-sided dice, and you have to get equal to or higher than their shoot value. So if his shoot value is a 4+, it means a 4, a 5, or a 6 will hit. He's going to try and take a shot at that orc right there. He needs that 4, 5, or 6. Now, if he moved, he would have a reduction to his dice roll. There's usually a penalty to moving and firing of -1. So, and also penalty to how far you can move even. He can usually move half distance and still shoot. Certain weapons like crossbows can't move at all. He stood still, took aim, and does he hit on a 4, 5, or 6? He does. Check line of sight to our target. We worked out the number of models or obstacles in the way. There was none. We rolled to hit, and now we make any in the way rolls. Now, if there was a piece of terrain in the way, let's say this guy was standing behind this wall, we would have to make an in the way check to see if there was terrain in the way. He doesn't have any terrain in the way, so we ignore that. Basically, the in the way check is the bigger and tougher the thing in the way, the more likely the shot hits it instead. So for a wall, rock, or tree, we have to roll a 4, 5, or 6 to get by. But like a fortification, like a big like rocky yard crop, or like if you're hiding behind like a parapet, you might need a 5 or 6 to get by. Fences, bushes, and long grass, it's a 3+ to get by. So basically, the softer the thing in between you and your target, the easier it is for the bolt to get through. In this case, there was no need to do it because there was nothing in the way. So now we're going to roll to wound, and that's going to use this chart right here. The strength of the weapon. Now, a bow has a strength of 2. And then the defense of my target, that Moran orc without a shield, is going to be a 5. So we go down the chart, we need a 6 to do any damage. So rolling again, if we get that 6, that orc gets an arrow in the eye. No, we roll a 1 and nothing happens. We resolve this process either one at a time, or we can take shots with the remaining models at the same target. So what we can do is called fast dice. I'm going to pick the 2 remaining guys, who are both in range and line of sight. Now they shoot 24 inches. Everybody's moved closer to each other, so we know we're in range, but I can use my tape measure to check if I want to. We're going to roll the dice and try and get a shoot of 4, 5, or 6, because they're both men of Gondor shooting this same orc. And they both missed, so no chance of actually wounding there. Nothing was in the way, and also nothing hit. Now let's try this last guy over here. We're going to take a shot at someone who does have an obstacle in the way. The same target. Because he's behind a wall, we're going to have to make an in the way test if we actually hit him. So he'll take a shot. We know he's inside 24. We know he has line of sight. So a 4, 5, or 6 will hit. It does, because he's partially obscured by that rocky outcropping. We have to roll a 4, 5, or 6 for it to get by. It's not a fortification, but it is a stone wall. So on a 4, 5, or 6, he manages to get past the wall. He doesn't. So it bounces off this wall right here and doesn't hit him. And that's our shoot phase over. So we're into the fight phase. Now in the fight phase, normally any model's in contact, which is to say that the base they're standing on is touching the base of an enemy model. So a good model versus an evil model would then roll to fight. We're not gonna get to do that this first turn. The final phase of the game is the end phase. So the end phase is where you're gonna clear up any tokens you may have had to put out by being knocked down. Not relevant for this game, but if there's cavalry involved, you can get knocked over and stuff. And have to stand up later on. You can be paralyzed and check to see if it expires, and you just reset the turn die if you're using it for priority. Turn 2. At the start of the turn, one of the things we'd have to check is if one side or the other is broken. Now, when you play a game like this, the more casualties you take, the more likely you are to start running. As soon as your army gets below half its starting number of models, so in this case, if there's 6 or more guys dead on one side, every time someone tries to move, they have to start making a courage test. So the best hope of the Gondorians is to break the morale of the orcs and cause them to flee, because they do have a slightly better morale. Again, we start back at priority and we roll to see who's going first. Evil and good. Whoa, evil got the priority this time. They get to move first. So starting in the move phase, everyone's going to move up there 6 inches, again measuring from the same point in the base to the same point in the base. And continuing their little shield wall. Having now advanced up, the Gondorians get to do the same, although instead of moving too far closely, I think we're going to just sort of form up a little battle line here. Not moving our entire 6 inches, so you can just kind of shift the models around if you want instead, because you know you're not moving too far. And then rely on their archers to once more hit them with some arrows. Some combined shots again. Instead of rolling individually for each guy, we'll roll 3 dice, 1, 2, 3, and all shoot the same target. Now we need the same roll to hit and wound this model, so they're all going to shoot him. They all have a shoot value of 4, 5, or 6, so we just roll the dice at the same time, and speeds up the game a little bit. They all hit. Once again, we know that the strength 2 of the bow to hurt the defense 5 of the Moran orc, they need a 6 to do any damage. And they don't quite get it, so a 5, 5, and a 1. This one is going to take a shot at this flanking force over here. He's a bit worried about them. So a 4, 5, or 6 to hit, just like before. And he misses. With our priority phase, move phase, shoot phase, and once again, no fight phase, we move back to the end phase, reset the die. They're closing in right now. We're into priority. No casualties yet, so the evil priority roll is a 3, the good is a 4. Once again, the good player just wants to shift up and form their battle line, just sort of ranking up and preparing for the charge, which will all stand still, and the Moran orcs make their move, plowing forward to begin starting the combats. So the line up the middle, charging forward to hopefully win the initiative next turn, priority, and the other 2 flanking forces heading towards the archers. With the move phase over, we're back to shooting. So these guys will once again do a combined shot, 3 shots from those 3 archers, all at the same target, all needing a 4, 5, or 6 to hit. They land 1. Once again, a strength 2 for the bow against defensive 5 means they need a 6 to do any damage, and they can't quite make it. This final archer, realizing he's being threatened, will take a shot at that orc, and miss. All right, the third turn over with no fights. We're on to turn 4, and this is the turn something's gonna happen. So priority, red is once again evil, and they win. So their plan has worked, and they get to now make moves to engage, called a charge. So a charge is an important kind of move because it allows you to enter someone's control zone. A control zone is a 1-inch bubble that basically guys from the other team can't enter unless they're gonna pick a fight with you. What it means is that you can't run around someone to go fight someone in behind until that person's already engaged. So we know we're well within 6 inches with all these guys. So we're just gonna start moving them and picking fights. Now a charge means you come within an inch, enter the control zone, and then enter base contact with that model. The front rank here is all gonna charge the swordsmen that are sort of holding the line. And what that does is that cancels their control zone and means that the friends can go around. Now, spears allow you to do something different. You can support with a spear. What that means is you can fight through a friend and add your attack to theirs when you do a combat. So right now, the Gondorians are being supported by their friends, and it means that the numerical sort of advantage of the orcs is offset by the fact that you have friends in behind, like poking with the spear over your shoulder. But because the control zone's gone, that means that the orcs can turn these 2-on-1 fights into 1-on-1 fights. He can ignore this control zone and go and charge the friend in behind. Same on this flank. He's going to move in and fight as well. These guys don't quite have the movement to get around, so instead they're going to go into base contact with their friends and do what's called a supporting attack to fight with their spears. These lone orcs back here, still a bit too far away. They're going to run towards this wall, moving 6, and try and threaten this archer. Now these two guys are already starting next to the building. They're going to make what's called a climb test. They move into contact with the wall, and then they get to roll a die and look on the climb chart to see what happens. So rolling this die, we're going to look on the climb table, roll a 1. Oh no, that orc fell. The model slips and falls to the ground and becomes prone. So we'll take a prone marker and put it next to that orc. If the model began its climb at ground level, it takes no further damage. But if it was higher than this, it could suffer falling damage. So if it was climbing already off the ground, it could fall down. The second orc, a little more prepared than his friend, walks over and attempts to climb as well and rolls a 3. Continues to climb. They'll climb until they move their maximum move distance or reach the top. It only took him about 2 inches to get there, so he has 4 more inches, and that's more than enough room to get to the top. Rolled a 6, he'd be able to keep moving and make a charge afterwards. Because he only rolled a 2 to 5, he has to stay outside. It finishes his move and stay outside of the zone of control of that guy. All right, and so the evil forces have moved. Now the good forces could move, but they're actually pretty happy with their positions because they are all able to either support a friend with their spears or fight one-on-one. Takes us to the shoot phase. Now these two archers can both openly see this guy. Now if there's a friend in the way, you have to make an in the way test. They both have a pure line to that orc, so they're going to quickly shoot using multiple dice and try and hit him. On a 4, 5, or 6 for the shoot value, they both hit. Now they need that again though. They need to get those 6s to kill him. 2 against defense 5. Nothing. It added up to 6, but not quite enough. Now this archer can shoot an unengaged orc in the back here that's supporting his friend. So this guy's not in zone of control of a friendly model, which means he's an eligible target. Now the evil models, if they had bows, they can actually shoot into combat with their friends because they don't care so much about the cost of the human, or the orky life, I guess. So it's a single shot into this unengaged orc on a 4 again. He hits, and then can he get that 6? We're getting 6s to hit, but not 6s to wound. No. This one's unable to see these guys on the ground level, so he'll shoot that orc that's supporting, it's unengaged. On a 4, 5, or 6, he misses. Shooting not doing so good this game. Finally, we get to actually use the fight phase. So we're going to start with one of these one-on-one fights over here. And what you do is you divide fights into one-on-one and then many-on-one. So luckily we have one human fighting an orc, one human fighting an orc, one human fighting an orc, both with support, same thing over here. And then one human with support fighting 2 individual orcs. You fight when you're in base contact, and you do it in 4 steps. You make a duel roll, you roll a number of dice equal to the number of attacks to see who wins. The loser backs away, so whoever doesn't win the fight moves away an inch, and the winner makes strikes. Whoever won the roll makes strikes equal to the number of their attacks against the using their strength against the defense of the target. Start with the one-on-one over here. This Man of Gondor fighting into that orc. They each have 1 attack on their profile, so they're each going to roll 1 dice. Additional rolls they can do with their equipment here, but we're just going to do a straight up fight here, 1 dice against 1 dice. So the blue die will be the Man of Gondor, and the red die will be the orc. Whoever rolls highest will win the fight. So the Man of Gondor won, and that means, because he rolled higher, and that means he will drive back his opponent 1 inch. In case of a tie, they would go to their fight values. Their fight value is both 3, so it ties again. No one has a higher fight value. It's basically your skill at fighting. So in this case, they will instead get to roll off to see who won that fight. Now, because there was a clear winner, we're going to make some strikes from that Man of Gondor into this Mornin Orc. Normally defense 5, he is carrying a shield, which makes him defense 6. Now there's a strength of 3, and we'll look down the table to see what we need to roll to damage. The wound chart from shooting is used in combat, so a strength of 3 against a defense of 6 means a 6 to wound. Both sides are very tough. Does not get it. Fight result, we go to the next one. This is going to be a Mornin Orc against a Spearman. Now this Mornin Orc does not have a shield, and we're going to roll 1 die against 1 die. 1 attack. Blue is Gondor. All right, so this time the Mornin Orc won. So he will drive that man back an inch, like so. His strikes. Now the Orc is stronger, strength 4 against a defense of 6 as well, 5 plus a shield. So he needs a 5 or 6 to kill that human. And he does not. These two resolve, we're gonna work our way left to right. We have this combat here. So once again, we have a man with a single attack of Gondor and a Mornin Orc. Now each of them is supported by a friend with a spear in contact, and that means they gain an additional bonus die to their attack rolls. The highest dice of the roll, and that will be the winner of the fight. So in this case, the Men of Gondor both roll 5s, and the highest is a 3 for the Orcs, which means the Orcs win, or the humans win, sorry, the Orcs lose, and are driven back. Models, including the supporting model, are driven back an inch. Both dice now are used to run strikes. So the duel having been won by the humans, they need their strength of 3 against defense of 6, because he's still carrying a shield, the guy up front. And it's a 6 to do damage. Come on. No, so close. The fight will be over here. So we have a Moor and an Orc against a man, both with supporting spears. So 2 dice against 2 dice. And this time the Orcs win. Driven back. And strength 4 this time against defensive 6 with a shield of 5 or 6 to do damage. And the Orcs, oh, crush that man. So the first blood to the Orcs, this Man of Gondor is killed. As soon as 6 or more are dead, we got to start making courage tests. So last but not least, we have 2 Orcs, Moor and Orcs, fighting 1 fellow with a supporting die. So it's 2 dice on 2 dice. But if we wanted to, we could also shield, which means that this guy could throw extra dice to try and win. I don't think we're going to do that yet. I'll teach you shielding when someone's outnumbered. 2 dice against 2 dice. And once again, the Orcs win with the higher individual dice roll, and a 5 or 6 would have slain that human, but instead he is fine, and he was already driven back an inch. All right, so in turn 4, the Orcs took the lead with their first kill. So we're on the end phase now, and we would remove any tokens. This guy is still prone though, so it'll stay on the table. And we roll for initiative for round 5. Oh, and the humans take it. All right, well, taking the initiative, this fella is going to jump on and attack that Orc. Gondor will do the same, just to try and block this all up. This bowman and this bowman both stand still, hoping for the best. And then the remaining men of Gondor, sorry, each be outside of an inch, will reform their battle line and attempt to hold against all these Orcs. So a charge, a charge, a charge, charging in, charging in, charging in, and supporting his friend. The humans got to go first. They kind of got to define how the fights are happening, but there are a few loose Orcs still to get to do stuff. So these 2 supporting spears, they're pretty happy where they are. They're going to stay in melee. But this guy's going to make a climb check and see if he can get up that. He does, but he does not get to move any further because he did not roll a 6. This Orc will do the same. Climb check and roll a 3. And both of them are now on top of this building, threatening this archer. The prone Orc can stand up. He can move half his normal speed, which he'll use to try and climb as well, and see if he can get up that wall. 3, he does, but he doesn't get to enter into zone of control. With only 3 inches of movement, that's the closest he can get. All right, so the movement's all done. We're in the shooting phase. 2 loose archers, both trying to defend their positions. He's going to take a shot into this guy that just came over the wall. 4, 5, or 6 to hit. Gets it, and then a 6 to do damage. Strength 2 against defense 5. No, you're doing the same into that single Orc. 4, 5, or 6, misses. To combats, and we'll start left and right. So now over here we have a Spear Orc fighting a Man of Gondor. Now we'll teach you shielding. So that Spear Orc's going to have 1 die, as is the Man of Gondor. If he decides to do nothing but defend, he can get an additional die, but if he wins the fight, he doesn't get to do any hits, basically. He's too busy turtling. It's called a defensive position. So we're going to try that this turn. And because of that, he wins the fight and drives this Orc back, but doesn't do any damage, doesn't get to roll any strikes because he's fully defending. Same over here, this Orc against that Man of Gondor, and even though he was fully defending, he loses. The high dice goes to the Orc. So he'll get driven back an inch as well, and then that Orc can try and make strikes. Strength 4 against defense 6 is a 5+. Oh, kills him. It's not going good for the Men of Gondor. Let's fight over here, 2 against 2. The supporting spears, and the bad guys win again. Now they can only hurt the guy in base contact, but they get 2 dice once again to do it because that's supporting spear. Things are looking bad. He's also dead. Oh no! The human line is crumbling. Now this one spearman is going to shield to gain an extra die to fight against these 2 because he can feel the shield wall starting to collapse. Didn't matter though, a 1 and a 2 will not beat that 3. And so those Orcs get to roll again and get a 6 and kill him too. Finally, we have a Man of Gondor fighting an Orc. He's gonna chance it 1-on-1. A casualty here, come on. Oh no, they lose as well, and that's strength 4. Does not kill him, but he is driven back. And then finally, this last spearman will do the same. 1-on-1. He wins this time though, and on a 6, he will kill that Orc. No, just can't seal the damage on those Orcs. It is too much. All right, up top, the 2 archers trying to fight that 1 Orc. So they get 2 dice, it's 1. And they win with a 6. They need that 6 again to actually kill him. Let's see if the archers can defend their little hidey nest. Nope, didn't even add up to 6. And he is pushed back just barely, almost off the edge. Whoa, 4 Men of Gondor down. It's not looking very good. 2 more, and they're gonna have to start making courage tests because their force will be broken. In the 6th turn, the Orcs look like they're overwhelming. They're gonna get back into the field hospital and they win the initiative yet again. And with that, these guys are going to try and overrun by each engaging one model. Numerical advantage continues, so he's going to pile in and be supported by his friend. He's going to pile in and be supported by his friend, and this is going to keep the humans from gaining any kind of a battle line here, and they're going to have to fight a fully ranked up Orc advance. So the first model entering zone of control pins him down with the charge, and the spear's going in support. It's the same here. He's going to move into combat. The spear will support. The Men of Gondor with a single lone archer to try and shoot in the shoot phase. He's not going to bother moving, but he will try and plug this orc right here. Maybe an archer will do something this game. So on a 4+ it'll hit. It does. It needs that 6 again. Come on. Kill him. Now it's a 1. Low on arrows. They must have been. things are not good for the shooters. All right, so once again, left to right. So it's going to be 2 dice on 1. This archer does not have a shield, so he has to defend himself with a single die. And high dice goes to the orcs. A 5/6 will slay that archer. No, he lives, but he is driven back an inch. Over here, the same thing. That human will shield and try and hold the line. They need to not lose any more men. And he wins. So he drives back the 2 orcs, but can't strike blows because he's shielding. Much the same over here. That human will shield, getting the extra dice, and win the fight and drive back the orcs. Buy time for the archers. Again, this duo fighting that Man of Gondor who will shield and win the fight. Oh, the shields are working. They may not be the killiest, but they are tough. Spearmen also shielding, trying to just hold off this advance of orcs. Ooh, so it goes to a tie this time, a 4 and a 1. So on a 1 to 3, the bad guys win. On a 4 to 6, the good guys win as we break the tie. 4 to 6, the good guys win. So he's driven back, but doesn't strike any blows. The first archer attacking this orc up top, dicing off. The orc wins though on a 5/6. Oh no, one of the archers is down. When they're broken, a single fight. So it's going to be this orc attacking this archer. Dice on dice. The human wins. And this guy is trapped. He can't go the full inch back. He's against a wall. It means that because he's trapped and he can't move the entire inch, there's double the amount of hits struck back against him. But it's not enough to kill him. Pushing back model finishes the move. He would go this way because he can't stay in the zone of control of him. The humans are hanging in there. The Men of Gondor, not quite out of the fight yet. We're on a turn 7. Initiative roll. Let's see who's going first. A tie, so we roll off again. And it's the Men of Gondor. There's not much they can do, so instead of fighting, they're going to fall back and make the fights a little more fair. So falling back and falling back. The orcs, however, are still able to get to them and support. So it's going to be a big fight this turn, as they are drastically outnumbered now. These Gondorians are just going to pile in, try and win the fights this way, and he's going to jump off, actually. I moved the orcs already, but it doesn't matter. He's just going to jump down. Climb down and be done. These guys to climb as well. He does. And this guy moves and does as well. So both of them down at the bottom. You can take a single shot and miss. Contact each with a supporting model. So 4 red dice to 2 blue dice, 2 Men of Gondor, one of which is supporting the other. The orcs tie. Everybody ties. So once again, they're tied for fight value. 1 to 3 is the orcs. 4 to 6 is the humans. The orcs win this time. So 4 dice looking at strength 4 against defense 6, a 5+ to kill that Men of Gondor. Oof, they are now going to be broken at the start of the turn. Same thing over here. That Man of Gondor is going to shield, I think, for the extra dice. So it'll be 3 dice against 4. The supporting guy can't shield because he's just throwing in help. And they win! Oh my gosh, convincingly, and drive back all 4 orcs. This guy's a hero. Go Warren Damrod. 1-on-1 up top. So against that 1 orc. Oh, the Man of Gondor wins on a 6. Ah, the archer gets the first casualty for the humans. They weren't good at shooting, they're good at fighting though. They're bloodthirsty. So then it's 1-on-1 up here again. And he loses. Oh no, so he's driven back, and on a 5/6, he's taken out. It's just 1-on-1 up top now. The Gondorians are in the game, going into turn 8. All right, so end phase, let's roll for some priority. The new turn, and the humans win, but that's unfortunate because they're broken. And that means before every model moves, they have to make a courage test. Now, a courage test is you roll 2d6 and add your courage value. If you get to a 10 or higher, you pass. So at courage 3, these guys need to roll a 7+ on 2d6 to pass. Otherwise, they're just taken off the board as they flee. So does your courage hold? 6 + 3 is 9. Nope. He decides all of his friends are dead, and he goes off to the dead pile. Archer over here also decides to flee. He's going home. This man of Gondor, he rallies, and he piles in for a final fight. His friend also rallies. These guys, you shall not pass. And then the last one also passes and goes to support his friend. And the orcs pile in, and it's really not looking good for the men of Gondor. He's just going to pile in here, and a friend's going to support him. He'll continue to support his friends. And it's going to be 3-on-1, 3-on-1, 2-on-1. These guys will come around and join the fight maybe next turn. He'll walk to the edge. Oh, it's bad. Well, he'll shield for 2 dice, fighting 3 dice for those 3 orcs and their supporting model. The orcs win, though, and it's a 5-6 now to kill him. He's driven back an inch to here, and on a 5-6, he's taken out. Men of Gondor remains, so once again, he will shield because his supporting friend can't help him now because he's also engaged. It'll be 2 dice against 3, and it feels like we're just delaying the inevitable. They win again. A 5 is the highest dice roll, and on a 5-6, he's taken out of action as well. The final spearman, last stand against these 2 orcs. He'll shield for 2 dice, but there's only 2 of them, so it's 2 against 2. Now they tie all over the place. 1 to 3, it's evil. 4 to 6, it's good. It's good. He's shielding. He drives them back. And there's a final turn. Phase, we clear the status. We're going to turn 9. And the big important thing is, does this guy run off to tell Damrod that the orcs are here? He sure does. 6 + 3 is going to be 9. And that means he takes off, and the orcs are victorious. This is episode 1. The orcs crossed the Anduin, and it led to a complete rout of the poor Gondorians. But that's okay. We'll be back next Saturday with the second episode of this, which is Ambush, which is going to talk about warband building and the heroic stats. And this is my painting stuff for this week. Now, you're going to get to see me do some paint guides for these on Instagram and Facebook, where I'll do some step-by-steps for both the Rangers of Ithilien, because this is my warband for next game. We have Damrod leading the Rangers in a counter-strike against the Orcs, and some reinforcements for the Moran Orcs themselves, taking up to 16. So basically 2 more just regular hand weapon Orcs and 2 more spear Orcs to bring them up for the next scenarios, like model requirement list. Now, I love breaking up a starter set this way because I feel like the heavy lifting of painting tons in rank and file, if you don't reward yourself with a game in between, then it just feels like monotonous. And the fact that I only have to paint another like 17 models to get to the next mission will be very, 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 very easy to do over the next 7 days. And you'll see that on Saturday. But the actual like paint guides and the sort of step-by-step, me painting Damrod, the Rangers, and the Orcs will all be on Instagram and Facebook over the course of next week. I might do some shorts too, because I can put the same images in the shorts on YouTube. So if you see them pop up on YouTube as well, then they'll be there. And all the description of the steps themselves will be in the video sort of like text, and you can see how I did these Moran Orcs and how I will do the actual Rangers of Ithilien going forward this week. That'll be my chunk. Now that leaves for the next couple episodes the rest of the Moran Orcs, as well as Faramir, Madril, Gothmog, and the Trolls, and they'll get their own separate bits as we go forward, followed by this right here, which is the how I painted the buildings video. So there we go, part 1 complete, the turn sequence, the core mechanics of the game, and the core stat lines for the Middle-earth strategy battle game, and the new Battle of Osgiliath 2-player starter. So big thanks to Workshop for sending one of the models early so I could do this series, and for you guys for watching, text Tom Ash. Have a great day. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look to the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continue to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.